All right, any questions?
You can ask the first question as B.
Okay, I have a question. I haven't figured out how to ask the first one, but my second question is, did you see any implications related to gender and race from the student perspective in the two different strategies? So for example, in a physical classroom, we see difference, right? And we feel difference, and we might feel power structure and things like that differently. Did you see any evidence of that in online versus not?
I didn't, because in the face-to-face class, there were a lot more females in most of the classes. So I can't really answer that, because I mean there were more females, such for example in the English class, that they were participating more. There was a class where there were 5 students, and there were 3 females that were more talkative, but there were some males that just weren't talking that much, and there were only 2 males. So that might be a little, that dynamic might exist. I mean, I might have saw it a little bit, but I'm not really sure.
And I guess my first initial, like, that's interesting. It seemed, and maybe I missed it, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the instructors were white. Is that true? Is that normal? I mean, I know Drake is, right? But like,
Typically it's
I thought
not.
that was fascinating.
That could be another
Especially, and maybe it's me, but that's what you found.
Yeah, that could be another limitation too.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally thought it was another limitation, but I can't just say, because they're white.
Yeah, right. I don't want to hear.
Probably could. That could be another limitation too.
Teaching face-to-face versus online, an entire additional study and think of the rich data that you can get from that, comparing differences across race and culture. Not part of your dissertation.
I guess my question is just like, does that remove some of the stuff that we deal with in a live classroom? Does the technology serve as a filter?
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, does the technology serve as a filter for some of those things that impact us in a setting? Or does it not? Is it the same? I don't know. Just curious. No, not yet.
Was you surprised?
Oh, I really thought about that, but I didn't want to.
One of the things that you had said was that a lot of the students had noted that there was room for improvement in different ways. But I want to know more, because this can really drive your recommendations. In what ways did the students say in face-to-face and in online instructional settings there was room for improvement? That should show up. You've got rich data, and that's seeing all of it. And it should be much more prevalent in your paper. So you've got to tell more of the story because you've got rich data.
Do you recall what the?
Yeah, so some students were saying, I remember one student that said, I wish my instructor would talk to us like we're kids, or they read I wish she would just read the whole class to us. There were good things, and there were some constructive things as well. Yeah, some of them said, my instructors wouldn't mind telling me that to fall asleep. But there are a lot of different things like that. Some students were more critical than others. Some students just took the survey as an opportunity to really let the instructor have it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So filtering through all that and looking for leads and saying, trying to slide, okay, this is, just critical of the instructor and not necessarily the learning process versus other ways that learning can be improved. You know what I mean?
Some students said, I wish the instructor would just take the time to explain things more often. Or I think a couple of them said the instructor talks too fast, things of that sort.
Right, so yeah, deeper explanations,
yes.
Different variable pace for instruction, those are the kinds of things that could show up in recommendations.
And are you thinking specifically of the surveys, or are you thinking of other?
I think, yeah, those student surveys, I would just love to see that data that you gathered much more explicit.
Yeah, if I could follow up on that. Hello. Why, as you presented this data, because you as the researcher, that's what you do, why didn't you choose to present the data on the listed learning experiences as they differed between the face-to-face students and the online? You lump them up as a percentage, but then you list the real hard numbers for each of the students. Whereas I don't know, because I didn't do the math, but you know, you had so fewer online students that I just wondered if the percentages on that table, do you know which table I'm referencing?
Yeah.
You know, if you had put the percentages, that might have showed some differences between each of those students. And so what my question isn't how you present, but my question isn't that you needed to do that, but why did you choose to present the data in this way? Because I agree, I think you might have had some stronger or more a richer narrative had you provided a little more of that, the differences between the students.
Yeah, I thought about actually including the percentages. That would actually take me probably 3 or 4 different slides. But yeah, I definitely did think about that. So thank you.
Yeah, but why? So why did you choose in the dissertation to present it that way?
I just felt like there were so many different things in the surveys that came out because they provided multiple responses. And for example, so many people provided different answers to, I think it was question 7, that, for example, when there was room, when they said there's room for improvement, they didn't necessarily say that, but I took so many responses and I combined them into just one response. That there will be so many percentages of the instructor talks too fast, 8%, you know what I mean? There will be so many different percentages that I had to include, and I didn't know how to include that on the paper to make it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I could probably do that in some type of Bradford or something of that sort.
I think it might have made a stronger presentation. I mean, I think it was fine, but I think it would have, I think it might have helped clarify some of that, but.
I wonder if you could add either another table but like a list of, so like if it's, the instructor could talk slower, use more examples, whatever, instruct improvement in, I don't know, you can come up with a term for that, use examples, put the examples, and then sort of list them in like priority. Like more people said this kind of thing, and then this kind of thing was less frequently said. And then, I mean, it's fair, like we've had course evaluations where people decide that they're gonna say things that are difficult to read. And some of it is like, okay, you can say nasty things, only not gonna help anybody. So like the nasty things that people shared that don't need to make it into the dissertation, right? And some of it is like pointless. Like if, I don't know if that German person had an accent, but if somebody said, oh, they have an accent, I don't like that. Well, sorry, you know, like what are you gonna do, right? But if it's like slow down in speech or use more examples, like okay, I think that a person could actually change. So maybe it's warranted to have an extra, I would assume that is a table then, and then with some commentary about it.
Yeah, at the crux, I would just say right now, like in table 5.6, you have them listed in descending order of percentages from the total students, but I don't know that list is the same, descends the same way based on face-to-face and online. That's the thing that I think would be, you know, are these the most important things for each groups of students? So that would just be the only thing that I think might.
Is that table 5.1, is that what you said?
I said table 5.6, it's on page 82 in the dissertation.
So are you saying, for example, if I say instructors are looking, or the students are looking for some improvement in the class, I can say online students 11%, and then basically just split the percentages out.
Right, because right now you have like the number one thing is hands-on, and then it goes visual, and then it goes discussions. And that looks to follow along with each group. But again, because you have different totals, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So, and it could be the same, but then I think it's worth noting that it is the same based on totals, but it might be different, and there's just no way of knowing.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about tables, I do have some questions about the math.
Okay.
Because, for example, table 5.7, this is just one example, and in my notes, which I apologize, I don't have that laptop with me. You say you've got 67 responses to the question. And then your first response, where students say that they take notes as a strategy to help themselves learn and succeed. You've got 12 face-to-face and 14 online. So you've got 26 students out of 67. But you tell us that that's 13% of your responses.
So there were some responses that I didn't know, probably didn't know how to include. I'll probably have to look back at the data.
Right. So then you've got to make it really clear to your reader the procedures that you're following to calculate these responses, because your next line, you've got 11 students total, but they account for 8% of your responses. So 26 are 13% and 11 are 8%. Even there's no internal logic there. Mathematically, that's not possible for both of that to be occurring within one table. But when you tell us you've got 67 responses to that question, use that as your baseline. So out of 67 responses, I've got 26 out of 67. So for this question, that's how you calculate the percent. So I love that you started with telling us how many responses you had. That's the denominator then when you're calculating that percent. Does that make sense? Okay, so that clarity through each of those, and then going back and reviewing your percents for each of those. That way you're accurately reporting your data, and that's going to help even further inform your conclusions. Okay. Do you have a question? Yeah.
More questions, Christina?
Well, are we going to, do you want all the questions now, or are we going to do questions with just the advisory group?
Yeah, so we're going to excuse, whose name I've already forgotten, Sharon and Chad, and then we will just do committee, and then Sloane will stay for that, and then we'll excuse you also in a few minutes after we go. So if you want to sit down, you want to do that. Can you see Sloane?
I can.
Okay. All right. So we've got tables need more review on tables and better explanation from in the text of what's in the table. Do you feel like that's consistent for all the tables? Is it just worth checking all the tables?
It is worth checking all the tables.
Okay. And then Christina was saying, particularly in table 5.6, to divide into face-to-face and online. Do you think that's consistent throughout the tables, or is that just for that?
I think that it's something that you might look at all the tables, because again, I had a hard time interpreting if it would make a difference or not in the message that you were sending. It might not be necessary for all the tables, but either which way, I think you need to clarify why you have or haven't. You know, even if you would do it and it didn't really change it, a sentence saying, you know, the percentages don't change the order or the importance of how these students viewed it based on face-to-face to online. I think that is a huge point of your entire research. So to be able to say that, or alternatively have to say, you know, there is a difference in the learning expectations and what skills are used between face-to-face and online. And that might be another area of research, or why some of the instructors are struggling, as you point out from the interviews, to translate their face-to-face course to online. I would think that would be an important consideration, is that the students themselves value different things differently.
Yeah, they have different priorities. Yeah. I have a question about participants. You've got all of the faculty members listed under your participants, but you don't, in chapter 3, you don't discuss the students that are your participants. So, because students would be considered participants also.
In the method section, is that what you're saying?
Yep, yep.
So include the students in.
Yes, since they are also participants in the study, you should tell us how many students were potential participants in your face-to-face, how many potential were in online, because that can also tell us, you know, the rate of participation for face-to-face versus online. And that way, if somebody wanted to replicate this study, then they would know more about the participants if they wanted to do a comparison.
So should I just estimate just the class sizes for, like, for example, Eagle College, to say maybe it's probably gonna have 40 students.
Right. If you don't remember how many students were in each class or each section, then make your best guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you can get back to them. After you could ask the professors, they can check, they have some record. So one suggestion on that is, it's confusing because we've got participants in a qualitative sort of way, but then we've got survey. So to me, yes, they're participants, but if you think of them as respondents to the survey, then that might make it, I mean, you got like different groups of people participating in different ways. So you just want to separate them out, because you got to make it clear that you didn't interview the students, however you want to.
But the survey is looking at the phenomenon of face-to-face versus online learning. And I think that's what makes students participants as well, because you're looking at the student's experience of each setting.
Sure.
You might just want to note on page 43, you say 8 instructors from 8 institutions. So you just have to make 8 instructors from 4 institutions, I believe.
Okay.
So that's on.
Do you have a marked up copy of, I think maybe before you got online, Dr. Kieran was saying that she has a marked up copy that she'll just email. So especially things like that, I mean, clearly that's an error that should be fixed, but it's not that big of an error, but it just needs to get fixed. So
I'm happy to, yeah, I will forward all of that to you. But to that, I guess I'm curious as if you think there are any issues with comparing one private 4-year university and 3 community colleges, participants from, you know, is that were you comfortable with that, or?
As far as getting the data from them?
Right, because to me, I mean, I will just tell you, to me, faculty teaching at a 4-year private university as compared to instructors from community colleges, how they get into teaching and their background into teaching is all a little differently. You don't really talk about that much, and I guess I'm curious as to why.
Well, I felt like being in the classrooms, I felt like it was pretty much the same thing between the university and community college. It wasn't too much different. The only thing I could say that might have been a little bit different was the relationships between the students and the instructor. But even looking at the observations, I mean, the observations at the private school wasn't even that much different. Because I mean, they were all smaller classrooms. They were all under 30 students for each institution. So I mean, it wasn't like they didn't. I felt like they all had a specific relationship with the instructor. It wasn't like a Iowa State type of classroom where they, there's like a big theater.
And these were all undergraduate classes?
Right.
Okay.
So that's a really important thing to know. I don't remember if you noted that anywhere, but this isn't going to necessarily translate the same to a larger university because that opportunity to build relationships with students is really different once class sizes get larger. So that's a really important thing to know.
Okay.
Was that was true for the online as well? They were all small.
As far as I know, the onlines are probably around 30 students. It wasn't that many either.
And at Drake, we kind of cap them out at 20.
Right.
Can you do me a favor? Can you pop back to your slide with theme 1? I have a question, but it may not be relevant. And I want to read theme 1 before I ask the question.
Okay.
Because I'm wondering if theme 1 doesn't really encompass themes 2 and 3. Can you pop forward to theme 2 for me? It's student engagement, collecting, connecting, especially how you have that described. Building out the students' interests and strengths, building students' participation, increasing students' engagement. Overall, I think that really covers the first half of theme 1. Can you pop back again?
So
Student-centered learning.
throughout all the themes, it was I think the overarching theme between themes was about engagement. Because it was trying to get them to interact and pay more attention.
Right. So student-centered learning and student engagement. You see where I'm saying that there's a tremendous amount of overlap between those. And then theme 3, strategies to address learners and improve learning outcomes. Again, I feel like that's also encompassed in theme 1.
Are you saying that you think it should be theme 1, theme 1A, and theme 1B?
Or just theme 1 and 2 and take out theme 1 and make theme 2 theme 1 and theme 3 theme 2. I see two distinct themes, theme 2 and 3. And I feel like theme 1 is an umbrella that covers all of those. Because really, I mean, we're looking at constructivist learning strategies and building relationships with students, to increase student engagement and to personalize student learning. But I feel like themes 2 and 3 really capture everything, and theme 1 is just the umbrella. And does anyone else see that, or am I?
So I see a little bit.
I'm just wondering if you truly have 3 distinct themes, I guess is what I'm asking.
So these are all from the point of view of the faculty member, right? What the faculty member does. And even the students were reporting on what the faculty member does. So it wasn't it was their own experience, but it was their own experience about the faculty, right? So go back to theme 1 then. What do you think, Christina? Do you hear Laura's?
Yeah. I didn't get the slide, so I can't really see. But
You want me to email it to you right now?
yeah, that'd be good so that I'm looking at, and so that'll help follow along. That's a good question. I don't know that I have a great response right now, but maybe if I see it in front of me, then I'll.
Sure.
And I think that was my last question, if you're worried.
see, it doesn't want to save it, so. What was it called? Can't really open because the original item can't be found.
Probably forward her email.
There, yes. Do that because I can't do the other. Okay.
Here we go.
So I don't know if we can.
And just tell me what slide number you're on.
So slide number 19 is theme 1. And Laura's sort of arguing for theme, not keeping theme 1 as a separate theme, but incorporating theme 1 and theme 2 together. Is that?
Right. I see overlap between themes 2 and 3 with the bullet points in theme 1. So that's why I'm asking if there truly are just 2 themes that we've come out with.
So to take the bullet points under theme 1 and incorporate them into themes 2 and 3 and then remember.
Yeah. You know, and I had that same thought. But then in going back to looking at the interview quotes that were used, this is where I struggled because theme 1 seemed to reflect the quotes well. But
Again, we lost you for a sec. Theme 1 seemed to what?
theme 1 seemed to be very reflective of the quotes that were put into the dissertation.
Yeah.
And so that's where I struggled because it's a fine line. I'm with you. I understand it's splitting hairs to some extent. But then I went back to what the interview said, and that's why I'm struggling.
What do you think, Sloane?
I can split it up if need be.
But do you think conceptually that it should be split up? So like if I said, all right, we got a lot of candy here. We got the Snickers, we got the Milky Ways, and we got the butterscotch candy. And somebody's like, Dr. Karen, actually we have chocolate and we have hard candy. Like, you know, you can have them as 3 things or you can have them as 2 things. And so conceptually, does it make sense to fit them into 2? Or is there, maybe what I'm asking really is there an argument in keeping them separate?
I feel like it's necessary to keep them separate only because I could split them, but theme 1 is specifically talking about this is what I generally do in my classroom. This is my style. This is how I facilitate. And then when they're asked about how they try to get students engaged, okay, then it goes back to this is my style. So this is what I do to keep them engaged. But what they do to keep them engaged isn't necessarily their style. You see what I'm saying? Most of it is, but well.
Is it? I think that's what I was getting at too, is that, and I think this can be argued either way, but I think theme 1 is more than just teaching styles and strategies. I think it's the faculty's identification of their teaching style and strategy.
Yeah, that's just a thought.
Yeah,
We
no,
don't have
well,
to change it.
yeah, we don't have to
Just
change
a
it, but it's
question.
interesting to make it the best that it can be, right? So if it's renamed something like faculty identification of teaching styles and strategies, is that more descriptive? Is there anything in theme 1 that's not faculty identification of teaching styles and strategies? Of their own. because it is an ownership. I mean, and of course we want faculty members, right, to own their teaching, and
So like the student-centered learning, like there was an instructor that said I have a constructivist teaching style and this is what I do. So if we're talking about teaching styles, like it'll be hard to take that constructivist piece and maybe turn it into engagement. Yeah, well, maybe it could be. I'm not sure.
That is the intent of constructivism, is to increase students' engagement.
Right.
So yeah, but if it's distinct enough, then leave it. It was just a question that I had because I saw the connection between.
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I think it's like it says something about the study. If we're like, hey, this could be organized a different way, like that, you've got something there, right? I mean, you did. So I think maybe from what Christina said earlier about the tables, what doesn't come out here is the difference between face-to-face and online. And maybe there's not a difference.
Well, they tried to say that they do the same things in both platforms.
Right.
I mean, they said this themselves.
Right.
Now that's not. Now most of them said that it's harder to do it what they do face to face online. But most of them said that they try to make the experience as similar as possible so they can get the same learning experience.
And is it your sense from the surveys that the students have the same feeling that that's what was going on?
Online, it's hard to say because there weren't as many responses.
Right.
But as far as what they wanted to see more of in the classroom, it was pretty much the same. I mean, they wanted the group activities, they wanted the discussions, they wanted the chance to interact. Probably even more so online.
I think that would be, that's going to be important to know, right? That this is what the things that the instructors are trying to incorporate, the students are even more hungry for online. And if you've got the data to support that should come out. So I think one way that instructors can find out students' interests, what they're motivated by, because you said, related things to basketball, if the students are really interested in basketball, is at the heart of that, instructors need to build relationships with students, which isn't always easy in an online platform, unless you build in some, Skype or Zoom time with your students one-on-one. So did that come out at all in your recommendations that faculty need to build good relationships with your students?
No, but I felt like they, during the interviews, they try to build a relationship as much as possible. But I don't really have the data to support them. But a question I would ask is, do you want me to include as an appendix maybe all the responses that I got from the surveys? Because I have a list of the questions and the answers, the responses, all the responses.
I think recreating all of that would be overkill. I don't think that would necessarily be efficient. If you've got some notes that show the summary of responses and how you categorize it, including that, but not everyone's responses.
And usually in a dissertation, people don't put the raw data in there.
It helps to protect the anonymity if the raw data isn't there.
Anything else, Christina, before we ask Sloane to step out?
No, not for me.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We'll get back, don't go too far. You can use the restroom or whatever you want. All right, we're gonna pull you over here a little closer. Seeing as Laura and I are at the other end of the room here.
I should get one of those.
That's right. Where are you in Wisconsin?
I'm in Sparta. It's in the southwest corner by La Crosse.
Oh, okay. When she told me she had been to Sparta, I thought she went to Sparta, Greece.
Oh,
It might be cooler there.
Okay, so we have some options. So we can not pass him. We can, pass him. And then if we pass him, we can say pending these changes. And then if we do that, then there's even, it's like the decision tree, right? If you say pass, pending these changes, and then viewed by major advisor or viewed by, or reviewed by the committee. So what is your feeling about where we are?
my biggest rock, the biggest thing is I want the tables to reflect mathematical accuracy. Yeah, I want
Okay.
that clear, here's the percent, here's how I calculated it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just have two things. I agree. That was one of them is, I think the tables need to be clear because I don't know that they are, well, they're not right now. I think we're all in agreement there. The other thing for me is in actuality, I find that there is a tremendous amount of bias in some, in pretty much all of his observations in comparison. And I think that should be reviewed again, because there's a difference if you're an observer when he says things like, the students had an enjoyable discussion as compared to it appeared the students enjoyed the discussion. And when you read those and you compare the face-to-face to online, it's clear that he's not a fan of online learning.
Okay, so review language,
Yeah.
describing face-to-face and online to make it more objective, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have notes in the, dissertation that I was mocking up. Like chapter 1 needs to be moved over to past tense and things like that. And there's some APA errors. I have not gone through and looked at all of the references in text to make sure that they are on the reference page or vice versa, but I always do that. And I believe it or not, I hit a wall. Doing two jobs.
You hardly have anything
living in
going
two
on.
different cities.
Yeah.
There's just, and I'll send him, but I will tell you very honestly, I got tired of proofing dissertation. It needs a very strong proofing. He's got capitalization just kind of willy-nilly and spelling errors. And I'm happy to send him mine, but I will tell you that I did finally give up because that just gets tiresome.
Okay, so I'm going to say get someone else to proof edit it for you.
Yeah.
So it sounds like probably we should have him send everything to the committee, which does not mean that once you get it, you have to check his reference things, but it does increase the stakes a little bit if he has to send it to the whole committee. Are you comfortable?
What were your thoughts, I guess?
Well, so when at first he didn't have as many chapters, and I had him split out the profiles from the other results because it's big. I mean, I think that's where the issue is, right? It's in the late added chapter because there wasn't enough there. And so I think that maybe isn't completely complete, really. So I don't know. I mean, it's not stellar. Adequate, I guess, is the, you know, and I mean, I've got absolutely no problem having him do, you know, redo it, and especially in that, whatever that chapter is, 4 or 5, I guess. It's the chapter right after the profiles, right? So that would be chapter 5. So that especially, and then, you know, like I feel like he did, well, like even with his PowerPoint, like I edited his PowerPoint and then I looked at where he had, like he misunderstood my edits. And it's fine, it doesn't matter that, but it's like, oh, for crying out loud. I didn't mean put it there, but whatever, it's like, okay. So I want, like it's been a series of, I don't want to say a series of miscommunications, but a series of difficult communications where it's like, I think I'm being very clear and then he does something that isn't what I had intended. And so like, I mean, that's okay. Other people do that too. It's, you know,
which is why you don't want to be the only set of eyes on this
right,
aspect.
right. And I think, I mean, but I don't want, because you, both of you are getting this paid the same amount to do this, you know, the same $0.00. So I don't want you to be burdened by it, but it could be like a spot checking on one of the tables or something like that, right?
And again, there's something, I mean, I'm happy to even, you know, it's a difference from reading one chapter and, you know, I'll look at where I've made some major edits to see what he's done there, spot check that. That's simple, and I don't mind doing that. I'll just speak for me. So I'm fine with having him send it to the, you know, committee with, and then we can just send you our feedbacks, basically yay or nay.
Yeah, and so if there's still things, it's like, okay, whatever, yes, not just yay or nay, but, well, so we have to decide, today, yay or nay, and then if we pass with revisions, then he's not done until the revisions are made and approved by the committee. And that could take a few go rounds if needed, but I think one benefit of sending it to the committee is it doesn't take as many go rounds because it's more, a little bit higher stakes. And then, so then just our process here at Drake is once it gets approved by the committee, then he's done for our purposes, and then he has to upload it to ProQuest, and then it gets another check. And then sometimes changes have to be made at that point as well. And I just had another student, like, you know, everything was fine except this one table, and Robin's like, no, I'm not letting that table go. It can't be like that. I'm like, all right, make her change it. Her 3 members of her committee didn't notice that there was any problem with it, but like Robin noticed, right? So it's okay. Like things can, you know, yeah, it just takes a village sort of thing. So then once it gets uploaded to ProQuest, then he's done. And he's gonna be, so doc students can graduate in any month, but we only walk in May and December. And he'll be walking hopefully in December. So it's not like there's a huge rush, right? I mean, obviously he wants to be done, but it's not like we're up to some kind of comfortable deadline.
It's not like he has to continue to pay Drake until he wants, you know, or something like that.
Right, he doesn't have to register, right. Yeah. So, you know, he can take his time, we can have somebody else proof it. And I don't know which peer it was that he had review his data, but that I know Robin always suggests that they pair up and, you know, you review my data, I'll review your data, you know, so that it's a win-win. So it might be a peer or it might be somebody that he pays, but
I'm okay with it going back to committee to answer that original question, but I would like to request that all I really look at is chapter 5 and the clarity of the math.
Yeah,
the accuracy of that, just because, I mean, you know, I'm a team player, but my time on this team is almost done.
Yes.
Technically, I'm done July 31st.
You are super fast.
So, and yeah, my new job is just insane. It's okay. No, it's a good
Good
and
and
sane.
sane.
Yeah, mostly.
Okay, so if I put all, so there's a box for me to check all committee members, and I'm gonna say in parentheses for review on chapter 5. And if you want to review something else, of course, that's fine, but, and then, yeah. Okay, so we're okay with pass? With all committee members. And then, when are you gonna be back, Christina?
I'm back on Monday.
Okay, so I will, you're gonna need to sign this. We'll figure, I can walk it over to you or something like that. So if you just put your name.
You need me second or third? Doesn't on the cover page. Third. Does it matter what order? Okay.
I'll make a copy for him so that he can see these changes, but we're gonna bring him back in and walk him through these so that it's clear what needs to be done.
Okay.
We're ready to go get him? We're turning you back. I know this is so attractive, isn't it?
Even though I can't see you, you have a new job?
I do. I am Director of Special Ed for Hayward Community School District.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that does sound like you would have your hands full.
I do, because the previous director broke all kinds of laws. So now I get to throw on the legal hat and scoop things up.
Oh, well, you're not going to be bored.
No, not at all.
All righty, so I just told Dr. Murray that he passed. And yay. So we do, I'll make a copy of this for you. So most of the changes that we were talking about are in chapter 5. So it's basically re-looking at all the tables, math, like we talked about, like the math should add up, everything's got to add up. And then consider switching out face-to-face versus online. Maybe not, maybe it's not, but if it's all basically the same, then writing in the text that it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
Or maybe one of them was different or something like that. So this is what I wrote. Table 5.6, divide face-to-face versus online. Tables need review on math and more explanation in the text. See if face-to-face versus online should be separated in each table. Make text comments about similarities and or differences. Add students as participants in chapter 3. So that's a change in chapter 3. Note that all classes were small. Review language, describe, so this is something we had just talked about here. So in the description, when you say, I think the example that was used was they had an enjoyable discussion, which is probably true, but you want to say like it appeared that they were enjoying the discussion or something like that, have it be a little bit more.
Was that in chapter 5?
I think that was in the description of the observations, which probably would have been in chapter 5, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then both Christina and Laura will send you what they have, and you can look at the edits that they have.
Okay.
They did some proofing, and then they felt like there are errors that a proof editor could get rather than them getting. So then they're requesting that you get or we're all requesting that you get somebody to read it for you. Could be a peer if you want. Yeah. You're welcome to hire somebody, but you don't necessarily need to hire somebody. You could get somebody they don't even have to really completely understand the topic, but for like grammar and just make sure that everything's as perfect as it can be. Other things that we talked about that.
Oh, and just AP or past tense in chapter 1.
Oh,
that's not major. But I also, when I approved chapter 1, I noted where things should be moved from I will do this study to I did this study. So I kind of left some specific feedback to move it from future tense to past tense.
Okay.
So one easy way to do that is do a global search for the word will.
Yes.
And then you have to read the line because you never know what the line says. I mean, like if a professor says, oh, I will do that next semester, then you've got to keep that, right? But if
Something
it's,
before, yeah.
right, yeah, if anything,
I think in chapter 3, you went through and cleaned everything up from, you know, I will use this one.
Yeah,
So chapter
Yeah.
3 was buttoned up.
So I typed in will and then I just went through it. Did it that way.
I guess maybe chapter 1. So you can have, it's okay to get a peer or a friend or whatever to edit, but we want somebody to like, so that when so then you're going to send it back to the whole committee. So you're going to make changes, send it back to the whole committee. If that's in 2 weeks, that's okay. If that's in a month, that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be next week. Once you're done with that and all the committee members are like, okay, go ahead, then you upload it to ProQuest. And I have the instructions for that here. And Robin checks it when it's in print. So you upload it to ProQuest, you'll take this instruction with you. After the changes have all been made and approved, then you upload it to ProQuest, and Robin checks it, and Jamie Cranston defended last month, and Robin noticed a table that was wrong. Like, none of the committee members, including myself, noticed that it was wrong, but Robin noticed it. So then she had to change it, right? And so there's our check, there's your changes, your whoever it is that you're gonna have be an editor for you, the proof editor. You know, make sure that they say, okay, great, and then it goes to committee, and then when the committee says yes, then it gets uploaded to ProQuest, and then Robin checks it, and then it gets completely finalized. And that process can take, you know, a little while. Like, you don't need to get it done immediately. You can technically graduate in any month.
Okay.
So you could be, I mean, you're probably not going to be a July graduate, but you could be an August graduate. Or you could be a September graduate, doesn't matter, right? Maybe it matters to you, of course it matters, but August to September is not, you know, you still get to walk in December, right? So, I mean, seeing as you're not walking until December, you want to make sure that because once it's uploaded to ProQuest, then like people all over the world can access it, and you want to make sure everything's uploaded. So, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right.
Sorry, I have just to make sure that, you know, there was no extraneous noise, so sorry. No, nothing on my end. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Thank
I'll
you.
this form over to you next week and have you fun. I'll probably leave it for you if you're not there, and then.
Right. Yep. Perfect. Thanks again, and thanks for letting me do this at a distance. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Woo, hi, here we are. I'm going to make a copy of this. This is your pen, because you paid Drake thousands of dollars, and we bought you a pen. And this is the letter that you wrote to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see Robin has him write a letter to himself right at the beginning.
So awesome, I love it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is fantastic. Oh. So do you have plans for tonight? Are you and your mom going to go out to dinner?
Yeah, probably.
Good.